Step into the world of Man About the House, where beloved stars brought joy and laughter to millions of viewers, but behind the scenes, their personal lives were filled with struggles and heartache. From serious health issues to tragic accidents, the lives of those who made us smile often ended in ways we could never have imagined. Join us as we embark on an emotional journey to explore the actors who created a legendary television show, reflecting on their legacy and the untold challenges they faced behind the scenes. Their stories reveal a side of fame that few get to see, where triumphs and tragedies intertwine in ways that will leave you rethinking everything you thought you knew about the stars you admired. Derek Seaton, born in 1943, appeared in Man About the House in the role of an agent in 2 episodes during its first 2 seasons, from 1973 to 1974. Known for his work in various television shows, Seaton's career was one of steady but modest recognition, and his role in Man About the House was a brief yet memorable part. His personal life, however, seemed to lack the same stability. Seaton faced many challenges in his later years, including financial struggles that were exacerbated by the declining opportunities for roles in his later career. A quiet and reserved man, Seaton never achieved the same fame as some of his peers, but he was respected by those who worked with him. Tragically, he died in 1979 at the age of 36, but the details surrounding his death remain largely private, with little information available about his family life or any significant romantic entanglements. Yootha Joyce, born in 1927, became a household name as Mildred Roper in the beloved sitcom Man About the House, where she appeared in 39 episodes from 1973 to 1976. Joyce's portrayal of the long-suffering, overbearing landlord's wife who had a crush on her young tenant, played by Richard O'Sullivan, endeared her to audiences. Despite her comedic success, Joyce's personal life was marked by tragedy. She was married to actor Glyn Edwards, though their relationship was often strained and tumultuous, and they eventually separated. Joyce struggled with alcoholism, a problem that impacted her career and personal happiness. It was rumored that her struggles with drinking were linked to the breakdown of her marriage, as well as the challenges of coping with the pressures of fame. Her career took a downturn after Man About the House, and though she remained an actress, her health began to deteriorate. Yootha Joyce's tragic death in 1980, at the age of 53, came after a long battle with alcoholism. She passed away from liver failure, a consequence of the alcohol abuse that had plagued her in her later years. Joyce's tragic end was compounded by the loss of her career momentum and the isolation she often felt. Her death left her fans mourning the loss of a gifted actress whose later years were marred by personal struggles. Though she had no children, her tumultuous romantic relationships and her battle with addiction remain a sad reminder of how fame can sometimes take a severe toll on personal lives. Glyn Edwards, born in 1931, appeared in Man About the House as Chrissy's dad in 2 episodes during the series' final years, from 1975 to 1976. Although his role in the sitcom was relatively small, his portrayal of a supportive yet somewhat bumbling father added to the warmth of the show. Edwards had a long career in British television, often playing tough or authoritative characters, and he was well known for his roles in shows like Minder. However, his life off-screen was troubled. Edwards had a tumultuous marriage to actress Yootha Joyce, his second wife. Their relationship was marked by significant strife, particularly after Joyce began struggling with alcoholism, which ultimately led to their separation. The personal turmoil Edwards faced in his private life seemed to mirror the challenges he faced in his career, as his roles often portrayed men grappling with difficult personal circumstances. Tragically, Edwards died in 2018 at the age of 88. While his death was natural, it occurred after a quiet period in his life. Though he remained relatively private about his personal struggles, it was clear that his career had taken a backseat to the difficulties he faced, particularly the loss of his wife. Despite this, Glyn Edwards left a legacy of memorable performances that continue to resonate with audiences who remember him for his complex and grounded roles. Doug Fisher, born in 1941, portrayed the character Larry in 19 episodes of Man About the House from 1973 to 1976. His role as a friend and occasional foil to the main characters added a comedic layer to the show's dynamic. Fisher had been active in British television for many years before landing his role in the sitcom, but he is perhaps best remembered for his time on Man About the House. While his on-screen persona often brought light-hearted charm to the series, his personal life was a different story. Fisher had a difficult relationship with the public eye and, like many actors of his generation, struggled to maintain consistent work after his most well-known roles. His romantic relationships and family life also reflected the challenges of balancing personal happiness with the pressures of fame. Though there are few details about Fisher's children, his romantic relationships were often marked by difficulty and instability. Tragically, Doug Fisher passed away in 2000 at the age of 59 from cancer. His untimely death was a blow to both the television industry and his family, as he had so much potential left in his career. Fisher's passing occurred relatively quietly, without the widespread media attention that sometimes surrounds the death of a public figure, and his loss left many of his colleagues and fans mourning the actor who brought such memorable charm to his roles. Dennis Waterman was born on February 24, 1948, and his career spanned several decades, with numerous notable roles, including his appearance in Man About the House, 1974, as Franz Wasserman. He is perhaps best known for his work in The Sweeney and Minder, roles that made him a household name. Sadly, Dennis's life was marked by personal struggles. He had turbulent relationships, particularly with his former wives. His marriages were plagued by allegations of physical abuse, and his relationships with women were often tumultuous. Waterman was married 4 times, and his later years were overshadowed by these difficult personal connections. Tragically, Dennis Waterman passed away on May 8, 2022, at the age of 74, following complications related to his health, though the circumstances surrounding his final years remained clouded by some of the darker chapters of his personal life. Bella Emberg, born on November 15, 1937, appeared in Man About the House in 1974 to 1975 as a traffic warden in the opening credits. Although Emberg was a well-respected comic actress, her personal life was not without sadness. She never married, and she often spoke about her loneliness in later years, particularly after her mother's death. In a profession where she was frequently typecast in supporting roles, Bella struggled to break free from the comedic and slapstick parts she was given, which often overshadowed her abilities as a serious actress. Bella's final years were fraught with health problems, and she passed away on January 12, 2018, at the age of 81. The cause of her death was linked to complications from a long-term illness. Bella, whose career spanned over 50 years, left behind a legacy of humor but also a poignant reminder of the challenges many in the entertainment industry face behind the scenes. Ian Lavender was born on February 16, 1946, and gained widespread recognition for his role as Mark in Man About the House in 1974. Though best known for his portrayal of Private Pike in the beloved sitcom Dad's Army, Lavender's role in Man About the House was a brief but notable part of his extensive career. His life, however, was not without its challenges. Ian experienced a period of personal turmoil after his marriage to actress Judy Lowe, a relationship that, like many others in the entertainment industry, faced its strains. His personal life has often been marked by a sense of longing and struggle with balancing public success and private happiness. While he has had a fulfilling career, he has often spoken about his experiences with isolation and the difficulty of maintaining relationships in such a public profession, though his later years have been marked by the reflection of a life spent in the spotlight. On February 2, 2024, he died of natural causes at the age of 77, leaving behind a legacy of both iconic roles and a deeply rooted personal life. Michael Segal, born on November 2, 1924, appeared in Man About the House in 5 episodes between 1973 and 1974, playing the role of Jim. Known for his work in a range of television roles, Segal's time in the spotlight was often overshadowed by difficulties in his personal life. Despite enjoying a successful career early on, Michael's romantic relationships were marked by disappointment and heartache. He struggled with feelings of inadequacy and emotional strain, and his private life, much like his on-screen persona, seemed to reflect a certain level of isolation. His career did not bring him the enduring recognition that he might have hoped for, and as he aged, Michael's personal battles intensified. In his later years, he became known for his bouts with depression, a struggle that weighed heavily on him. Tragically, Michael Segal passed away at a young age on January 5, 1996, under circumstances tied to complications from a long battle with depression. His death left a deep sadness among those who had worked with him, as he was remembered not only for his talents but also for the quiet struggles he faced behind the scenes. Peter Jones, born in 1920, was a British actor best known for his portrayal of Mr. Morris in the sitcom Man About the House, 1975. Although he had an extensive career on both the stage and screen, Jones's life was marked by private struggles that contrasted with his public persona. He often played sophisticated, somewhat eccentric characters, but his personal life was far from idyllic. While there is little known about any long-standing romantic relationships, he did have a family life that was more complex and difficult to piece together. Peter Jones's final years were shadowed by health problems, and he passed away in 2000 at the age of 79. His death was attributed to complications from a long-term illness. Though his death was not entirely unexpected, his passing marked the end of a career that had brought joy to many, yet his own life was never as fulfilling as his performances might have suggested. Roy Kinnear, born in 1934, was a beloved English actor who appeared in Man About the House as Jerry. Over his career, Kinnear became renowned for his comedic roles and his ability to portray eccentric characters with warmth and humor. However, behind the scenes, Kinnear's life was marred by professional challenges and personal tragedies. In the mid-1970s, Roy faced struggles in his romantic relationships, particularly his marriage, which was strained by his intense work schedule and his need to maintain his public image. His family life was also complicated, and while he had children, their relationships were not always harmonious. Tragically, Kinnear's life came to a shocking and untimely end in 1988. He was in the midst of filming The Return of the Musketeers when he fell from a horse and sustained fatal injuries. His sudden death at 54 left a gaping void in the world of British television and film. The loss was made even more poignant by the fact that he was so young and had a promising career ahead of him, as well as the sorrow that surrounded his death, including the strain on his family from both his passing and the tumultuous years leading up to it. Jeremy Bulloch, born in 1945, portrayed Derek Sutton in a single 1974 episode of Man About the House. Though this appearance was brief, Bulloch was a seasoned actor with an extensive career spanning film, television, and stage. He is best remembered for his role as the enigmatic bounty hunter Boba Fett in the Star Wars franchise, a character that earned him a cult following despite minimal screen time. Off-screen, Bulloch's life was not without its shadows. His commitment to acting often led to long absences from home, creating a strain in his marriage and leaving his relationship with his 3 sons fraught with unresolved tension. Despite his professional success, he sometimes voiced regret over the personal sacrifices he made in pursuit of his career. In his later years, Bulloch was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a condition that gradually robbed him of the vitality and grace he had once brought to his performances. He spent his final days surrounded by family, but the years of emotional distance lingered as an unspoken weight. Jeremy Bulloch passed away in 2020 due to complications from the disease, leaving behind a legacy both cherished and tinged with the bittersweet cost of fame. Duncan Lamont, born in 1918, had a long career in film and television, with his appearance as Dr. McLeod in Man About the House, 1973 to 1974, being one of his memorable roles. Lamont's career spanned decades, and his performances were often overshadowed by the personal difficulties he encountered behind the scenes. Despite his success, he had a tumultuous personal life. He faced struggles in his romantic relationships, and his marriages were not without their ups and downs. His children grew up in an environment where his work and personal turmoil often collided. As for his career, Lamont was typecast in certain roles, which affected his professional satisfaction. Sadly, his later years were marked by financial difficulties and health problems. He passed away in 1978 at the age of 60, a death that many attributed to the toll that years of stress and ill health had taken on him. His passing was a tragic reminder of the hidden pressures many actors face, even after achieving success. His death occurred too early, just as he seemed poised to enter the later stage of his career, leaving behind a legacy that was tinged with personal sorrow. Norman Chappell, born in 1925, was a character actor who brought an air of peculiar charm to his brief role as Mr. Morris in a 1974 episode of Man About the House. Chappell was known for his appearances in British sitcoms, often portraying quirky or eccentric characters who left a lasting impression despite limited screen time. Off-screen, his life was marred by personal struggles and a profound sense of loneliness. He never married, and his few romantic relationships were brief and tumultuous, marked by his battle with depression and a deep distrust of intimacy. Chappell's later years were overshadowed by declining health and financial instability. He passed away in 1983, reportedly from complications of heart disease, alone in his modest flat. His passing was barely noticed by the press, a quiet end to a life that had glimpsed fame but never truly grasped it. Anthony Sharp, born in 1915, played Mr. Matthews in a 1975 episode of Man About the House, embodying his usual elegance and precision as a seasoned character actor. Sharp had a distinguished career, appearing in films like A Clockwork Orange and numerous television productions, yet his personal life was far from the polished roles he often portrayed. Sharp never had children and remained a bachelor, though he was known to have been deeply affected by a long, unrequited love affair in his younger years. Friends described him as both charming and distant, a man who hid his vulnerabilities behind a veneer of sophistication. Tragically, Sharp succumbed to cancer in 1984 after a brief but grueling illness. His final days were spent in a hospice, surrounded by few visitors, a poignant contrast to the grandeur of his on-screen presence. Charles Morgan, born in 1909, appeared in Man About the House in a 1975 episode as a teacher, a brief but notable role in the series' exploration of everyday humor and misunderstandings. Morgan was a seasoned actor who began his career on the London stage in the 1930s, navigating the tumultuous post-war British theatre scene. Despite his professional accomplishments, his personal life was marked by profound solitude. He never married, reportedly due to a long unrequited love for a fellow performer who moved to America at the height of his fame. In his later years, Morgan lived in relative obscurity, relying on his modest pension after his health declined. He passed away in 1994 from pneumonia, compounded by years of battling emphysema. His death was described by colleagues as a tragic end to a quiet, melancholic life, overshadowed by his unfulfilled artistic ambitions and a series of estrangements from his family. Joe Kendall, born in 1940, took on the role of Podge Randall in a 1974 episode of Man About the House. Kendall's career spanned radio, stage, and television, with her early work in I'm Sorry, I'll Read That Again bringing her initial acclaim. Beneath the laughter she brought to audiences, her private life was fraught with challenges. A brief marriage in her 30s ended in heartbreak, leaving her to raise her 2 children alone. Friends noted her strained relationship with her eldest son, who moved abroad and cut ties after a series of arguments over her career choices. In her later years, Kendall became increasingly reclusive, retreating to a quiet village in Norfolk. Her death in 2022 was attributed to complications from a stroke, but those close to her speculated that her decline had as much to do with emotional isolation as it did with physical health. Her passing marked the end of a life filled with both comedic triumphs and profound personal struggles. Harry Littlewood, born in 1921, portrayed the driving examiner in a single episode of Man About the House in 1975. A familiar face in British television, Littlewood often played stern, authoritative characters, a reflection of his disciplined upbringing in post-war England. Off-screen, however, his personal life was marked by heartache. His marriage of 30 years ended in a bitter divorce, with rumors of infidelity and financial disputes casting a shadow over his later years. Estranged from his only daughter after the separation, Littlewood retreated into his work, appearing in a string of minor roles that never quite matched his early promise. He passed away in 2003 after a long battle with prostate cancer, spending his final days in a hospice with no close family by his side. Friends described his death as the quiet conclusion to a life filled with unspoken regrets and unrealized dreams. Alistair Williamson, born in 1918, took on the role of the police sergeant in a 1975 episode of Man About the House. Known for his imposing presence and commanding voice, Williamson's career often cast him as figures of authority, yet his real life was far less structured. A series of ill-fated romances defined much of his personal history, including a tumultuous affair with a fellow actress that ended in public scandal. He married twice, both unions ending in acrimonious separations that left him financially and emotionally drained. Williamson had no children, a reality he reportedly regretted deeply in his later years. In 1999, he died alone in his London flat from a heart attack, his passing discovered days later by a concerned neighbor. His death underscored the loneliness that had pervaded his final years, a stark contrast to the larger-than-life roles he so often portrayed on screen. Erik Chitty, born in 1907, played the magistrate in a 1975 episode of Man About the House. Known for his fragile, bespectacled appearance, Erik spent much of his career typecast as mild-mannered or eccentric characters. Off-screen, however, his life was marked by a quiet melancholy. A lover of literature and music, Erik struggled with feelings of professional inadequacy, believing his talent had been wasted on minor roles. He married late in life, and the union was strained by his reclusive nature and bouts of self-doubt. Tragically, Erik passed away in 1977, succumbing to a sudden heart attack in his modest home. He left behind no children, but his legacy endures in the brief, yet memorable, characters he portrayed. Steve Plytas, born in 1913, appeared as the restaurant manager in a 1976 episode of Man About the House. A Greek-born actor, Steve emigrated to the UK after World War II, carrying the scars of a tumultuous youth marked by the Nazi occupation of his homeland. Though a familiar face in British television, often cast in roles reflecting his heritage, Steve privately yearned for more complex characters. His personal life was fraught with conflict, his marriage ended bitterly after years of cultural and personal clashes, and his estranged daughter moved abroad, leaving a void in his later years. Steve's death in 1994 came quietly, the result of pneumonia. He spent his final days in solitude, reflecting on a career that, while steady, never allowed him to fully realize his artistic ambitions. Michael Redfern, born in 1943, appeared as Mike in 3 episodes of Man About the House between 1973 and 1975. A charismatic performer with an affable on-screen presence, Redfern was best known for his work in television sitcoms and commercials. However, beneath his comedic exterior lay a man deeply dissatisfied with the typecasting that plagued his career. His marriage, while long-lasting, was marred by financial instability and the strain of balancing family life with the uncertainties of acting. Redfern's relationship with his children became increasingly distant over the years, as he grappled with feelings of failure and a perceived lack of recognition for his talent. In his later years, he suffered from declining health and faded from public view, dying quietly in 2022 from natural causes. His passing marked the end of a life full of unfulfilled dreams and quiet struggles. Colin McCormack, born in 1941, played Bernard in 3 episodes of Man About the House between 1973 and 1974. A classically trained actor with a powerful stage presence, McCormack divided his time between television work and the theatre, where he was a stalwart member of the Royal Shakespeare Company. Despite his professional accolades, McCormack's personal life was tumultuous. His dedication to his craft often came at the expense of his family, leading to estranged relationships with his wife and children. Behind the curtain, he was plagued by periods of intense self-doubt and melancholy, which he attempted to mask with an air of stoicism. McCormack died of cancer in 2004, a tragic end to a life marked by both artistic triumphs and personal tribulations. His passing left a void in the British theatre community, where his talent and passion were deeply admired. How do you feel about the passing of the actors from Man About the House? Which actor left the biggest impression on you, and why? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your memories and reflections. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our latest videos celebrating the legacies of iconic stars and timeless classics.